It's been a turbulent first year in office for Vice President Kamala Harris and her staff. Since the beginning of her term, there have been reports of tensions in her office, infighting, backstabbing, slow decision-making, and a lack of strategic planning, all of which has damaged Harris' presidential hopes, at least in the eyes of some political analysts. The toxic environment of the VP Harris office has led to several high-level departures from her team. Earlier this week, Harris' chief spokesperson and senior advisor and most high-profile staff member, Symone Sanders, announced that she would be departing the office at the end of the year. During the stop in North Carolina to tout the Biden administration's infrastructure bill, Harris expressed her love for Sanders and excitement for her future.
I love Symone. I love Symone, and I can't wait to see what she will do next. She works very hard, and I can't wait to see what she'll do next. And I mean that sincerely.
Joining us now is opinion columnist at The Guardian, Michael Harriot, and CQ roll call columnist Mary C. Curtis. I said in that intro that the toxic environment in the Harris office, that is an alleged toxic environment. I don't know that it's toxic, but that's what the stories keep saying. Michael, I want to get you to weigh in on this. What are you hearing about the environment inside the VP's office?
Well, I think a lot of what you read about the situation, I'm not saying this to be flip, right? It's just Black people talking loud, really, right? Like in any political office, there is debate, there is, differences of opinion, and almost every article you read, when they lay it out, that's what they're talking about. Well, some people in Kamala Harris's office have a difference of opinion from some other people in Kamala Harris's office. And almost all of the explanations boil down to that. And the other thing about that is, like, if you have a staff filled with, capable, smart Black people or people in general, many of them are going to leave because there's so many other opportunities. When you look at Symone Sanders, right, she has, been at the helm of 2 successful campaigns, and she's probably in high demand. So she probably would have to leave to pursue some of those availability and opportunities that she has presented to her.
Mary, this notion of chaos and turmoil has followed Harris from the time she was a senator, her run for president. That was the knock against it then. There were stories that came out. There was chaos, decision-making was bad, all that. Again, it is following her into the VP spot. How much of that is a kind of a true narrative, and how much of that is just kind of a knock, as Michael was talking about, a knock against this Black woman?
Well, yeah, it is fair to cover when people leave the office and they change jobs. But look, Jen Psaki said she's not going to stay on for many, many years as the White House, press person, because a lot of these stories have anonymous sources. So as Michael said, there are people talking, and some of them have an axe to grind. And of course, she is the first Black of South Asian descent, a woman, a daughter of immigrants who's in that position. And so there are a lot of people who are out to get her. So it's interesting. People are trying to have a narrative that's going to take hold. So when you have these stories coming out about chaos and what's going on, it seems like a lot of folks are trying to basically undercut her, particularly her chances if Biden decides not to run to be the candidate.
Michael, let's talk a little bit about that. The possibility of her running if Biden chooses not to run. There's just so much discussion around that. One story I read about people leaving the office was that they didn't want to be labeled as Harris people. People keep trying to juxtapose her with other people who might run if she ran, like Pete Buttigieg. How much of this kind of, dart throwing is strictly about damage? I mean, a lot of, I'm a columnist, right? So I don't use anonymous sources because I don't have to. I understand the reporters who do. Sometimes that's the only way they can get the information. But there's always some sort of motive. Sometimes it's a great motive, which is to expose a corruption. Sometimes it's people whispering because they hope that you will take the bait and write something. How much of this dart throwing do you think is about just damaging her chances?
Well, I think you have to ask yourself this, right? Compare it to all of the other extensive reporting on not Kamala Harris, right? Because we're not talking about Kamala Harris, but the other people in the vice president's office. And you've never seen this level of scrutiny on what's going on in the vice president's office. You didn't see it when Joe Biden was president. You didn't see it, during the Trump administration. So this level of scrutiny should explain how much this is about damaging Kamala Harris, because nobody else faces this level of scrutiny as vice president. We don't know like how many people have left the office of the Secretary of Transportation. We don't know how many people have left any other office in the cabinet. We don't know. It's just weird how it seems to focus on the vice president's office. We know in the grand scheme of things, the vice president's office is only important because of its proximity to the president and how that person who holds that office may become president eventually.
Mary, how do you see all of this working out for the vice president? It feels like, she's been kind of kept back on her heels, being defensive about things. She's taken a lot of incoming in her first year. And so she's constantly being asked to defend one thing or another, either about her office, about her own actions, about her, whether or not she's being vocal enough about this issue or that issue. How do you think this is going to all work out for her?
Yeah, about her laugh, about her attire, about everything. Well, I think, as Michael pointed out, she's being covered not as a vice president, but as president almost, because it is a number 2 job. And a lot will depend. She has this incredible portfolio. Look at it: immigration, voting rights, of which they're having problems getting any traction on, vaccinations, the digital divide. So, I mean, she's definitely has a chance to be a leader and turn this around. And we also know that so much depends on the events, and you don't know what is going to happen. And you did see that a lot of influential Democratic women are also coming and having her back pretty much, and saying some of the coverage it has a racial tinge, it's sexist, and they really don't want to see her damaged in this way. So, I think there's always another story that people can cover, but yes, she can turn it around and see what happens. It'll be interesting to see. It's interesting that they're trying to put Pete Buttigieg, sort of making them rivals. They were both in Charlotte, North Carolina on infrastructure and talking about that. And they covered less almost what they were saying than the relationship between the two of them, although he was very deferential and said the infrastructure bill couldn't have gotten through without her support. So it also is going to depend on Democrats showing unity and not being fractured.
Michael, Harriot, and Mary C. Curtis, thank you so much for your time. This is a fascinating story. I can't wait for us to get, the vice president or somebody on the record to talk about this, because there's just so much speculation. I don't think we're actually getting to the core of what's there, if there is anything there. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.